Okay,
Yeah,
so good
yes, yes.
morning or afternoon, dear guests. Welcome to our fourth webinar about vertical farming, part of Equine Plus project. With our webinars, we embark on a journey that intertwines a few vital and interconnected subjects: climate change, secure food production and consumption, and smart farming for the empowerment of young individuals. If you're curious about the fascinating world of indoor cultivation and interested in learning from industry leaders, then this webinar is exactly for you. Allow me to introduce to you Hjalmar Van Der Buchwald, an expert with 7 years of experience in the field. Today we're going to discover the secrets behind Hjalmar's success and get a glimpse into the incredible work his company is doing. Before we start, I want to mention that we have 6 more webinars on the topic of vertical farming coming up, so you can stay updated by visiting our Facebook page. Well, without further ado, let's welcome our speaker, Hjalmar. Hjalmar, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Joanna, for this introduction. My name is Hjalmar. I'm 27 years old, and we are here today to talk about possibilities and opportunities in the vertical farming sector. This is what I will be talking about, and we will have a Q&A session afterwards. So if you have any questions, just write it down, and then we will take it together after the presentation is done. I will not be using a PowerPoint or anything. I will just be talking, but it's all being recorded, and I will also give you my notes afterwards so that you can come back and see everything once more if that is something that you want. I'm going to start a little bit by telling my personal history just for 1-2 minutes here, and then we'll get into the history of the company and our work, and later on opportunities in the sector, and yeah, we'll take it as we come along. But my personal history is that I started working as around 20 years old. I was seeing myself as young, confused, and I was also unemployed. I did not have a job at that moment. But I knew that I wanted to make a difference, and I knew that sustainability is something that I wanted to work with, and I wanted to leave an impact in some way. So I had a friend who had a company that was working with CEA. This is Controlled Environment Agriculture. And we started this company together as it matured into a grow shop. And we were selling a lot of equipment for growing plants indoors. Later on, we actually worked with medicinal cannabis as it was being tested in Denmark, and we did some consultations where we provided all the necessary documents and equipment for establishing medical cannabis productions here in Denmark. We did a couple of those. And then we started growing microgreens vertically as well, just for fun in the beginning, because we saw some videos on YouTube and we thought that this could be a fun thing to try out. And it gained a lot of interest, and soon it became really popular, so that we saw, okay, we need to expand this in some way. At that time, we were also being nominated for Entrepreneurs of the Year, and we won that as well in our region of the country. And through that, we also gained some extra popularity. And this leads us on to establishing this company, Microgreens Denmark. It was established in February 19, so we are 4.5 years into the company at the moment. Me and my friends saw that we could not run this just the two of us, so we found a third guy who was actually a chef and who has also worked on his own companies before. The thing that he was a chef was a great advantage to us, because we mostly sell business to business, to professional kitchens, and communicate a lot with chefs, and he had a way of talking to them that they really enjoyed. So he helped us get a lot of sales that way. But yeah, we also were all agreed on that we wanted to keep sustainability in mind for this company, and we wanted to do things in a different way. We wanted to stay local, we wanted to be super fresh, and we wanted to be providers of a super healthy product as well. And we could see that people were interested. So first, in the beginning, we were like thinking, okay, what do we need to start this company? What do we need of sourcing? Where do we find the best equipment for the best prices? And who do we talk to get all of this? We had to find the right partners. Finding the right partners in a new company is definitely not easy, but it's something that you should definitely work on to improve your market shares or your competitiveness as much as possible. Choosing a right partner can maybe work for some time, but then you have to throw them out again. We just threw out a 4-year partner a couple of months ago because we could just get better prices at a new place. And as tough as it is, you may have had a good relationship, but it's still business. Business is key, you could say. Okay, so yeah, we were doing production now. We had like we went from just one shelf that we bought in a thrift shop and then installed some lights on and tried to just to see to make it work. And we got 10 more racks and we had a little room of I think 15 square meters or something. And we were starting out by growing I think 5 or 8 different kinds of microgreens only in the beginning. And while we were growing these, we could see that, okay, there's a lot of interest for this. And if we keep on doing this, we're going to need some bigger, we're going to need some more space soon then. And after we had been doing that for some times in this little room, we were ready to move. Of course, in the beginning, we did a lot of mistakes. Starting a new company, there's a lot of learning by doing. And I think mistakes are okay if you just remember to learn from them, which is very important that you learn from your mistakes. And then when we maxed out this little room, we had to move to a new space, and we got a place that we leased, and we could fill in like 15 times the capacity. We now had a couple of 100 square meters for the company, so I think we had like 150 for production. And we could set in some of these big pallet shelving units that we use for our production. It's very simple and it doesn't necessarily have to be very high tech. You can have a low tech option as well, which we had in the beginning, and that was very suited for us. That we enjoyed that. But in the beginning, we had to try and find customers a lot because we didn't have any big wholesalers, or we didn't deliver to anybody that knew us in advance that could say that we are a good company to do business with and would recommend us to others. We had to find all the people ourselves. So we did it as best as we could, driving around the entire country almost and finding new customers, always trying to become a little more competitive in this field. And it was still very early for microgreens and vertical farming in general here in Denmark. And we maxed out that. When we maxed out that space, we got hit by COVID, and all of our customers had to close down, and we lost pretty much all our sales 1 week from another. We lost like 90% of our revenue. So that was really tough, and we had to find some new channels to try and sell our products, and we found some wholesalers that delivered to private end consumers directly, and we sold a lot through that at that time, which was a very big help for us. But again, when COVID ended and we had the possibility of setting up and doing things that we used to do, we were able to move to a new spot again because there was no more room left at the old one. So we moved to a different locations where we are today. We have about 1,500 square meters here in total. We have 500 square meters of production, and we have a lot of containers now as well. But yeah, moving to this new spot and growing your company and growing your business, whether it's vertical farming or something completely different, when you're growing, there's going to be more and new responsibilities, and it's going to be tough to keep track of everything. So you have to make some systems and some procedures for how do we maintain status quo here. And I think that will be necessary at some point also will be hiring people. Hiring people is yeah, it's something that is very different when you're just a young guy who's never had I had never had the responsibility for people in that way before. So that is something that you also have to learn to navigate in. But yeah, hiring people, and especially hiring talented people or good people, or training people so that they become talented, is a process. And that is something that you just have to learn by doing. And of course, you can read on it and you can take seminars and workshops. But working with your employees will ultimately be something that you will gain the most from, I think. Okay, so we were now also hiring people. So now we need to learn to make extra money as well. So how do we do that? Of course, we do that by finding new customers continuously and being referred and gaining new strains or sorts of microgreens, something that people want or something that people think could be interesting for them. But at that time, we think, okay, we are selling microgreens and we are selling herbs, and it's not really cutting it at the moment. We need to expand our portfolio also to gain interest from the vertical farming space and from the restaurants and kitchens and chefs. Okay, so we were starting to grow mushrooms, and how do we do that? And it was like we had to do it all again because people were interested when we came with the mushrooms. So we looked at what do we need, how do we find the right partners, and what do we need to source, and how do we do this in the best way possible. And we saw that used coffee grounds is something that is really good for the production of mushrooms, and the used coffee grounds we could get that from some of our customers. We have some very big wholesale customers, and they have a lot of excess coffee grounds. And the coffee grounds, when they have made the coffee, the grounds are a waste product that doesn't really serve much purpose. So it's being sorted as food waste, and they pay money to get the food waste picked up all the time. So we came in and we said, hey, we can take all your coffee grounds, we will deliver the buckets and the service provided around it, so that you only have to throw your coffee grounds in this bucket instead of that bucket, and we will pick up the bucket and we will use this for our mushroom production. So, and they were like, okay, cool, let's do it. And they're loving it now. They're getting hundreds of kilos every month, some of them. But there's some circular economy in this project as well, because the coffee grounds go from being a waste product to getting a new life, and it even saves money. And you can say that the grounds from the coffee they drink in the morning is being used to produce the mushroom that can be eaten in the evening. So we had bought one container at that time, and within a couple of months we had to buy another one, and now we have bought another one as well. We just merged, we bought a competing company actually that's called Beyond Coffee, that we now have control over, and have all their equipment coming over to our site within the next couple of days and weeks. So we're really busy here at the company at the moment. While doing all of this work for the last 4.5 years, we have also tried to keep and maintain an online presence, both on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and the latest addition is that we now also have a YouTube channel. And you can follow us on all the channels. We are called Microgreens DK, Microgreens Denmark, and our YouTube channel is called Vertical Greens, and we post a lot of videos about growing mushrooms and post a lot of videos about growing microgreens. And you can always just text us or write us if there's anything that you need help with. And while we've been doing this online presence and gaining popularity from that, people have noticed and thought that, okay, how can we get in on this? And we have then done some franchises with some people. We have one franchise here in our own country, as well as one franchise abroad at the moment. And they are steadily growing, and we are helping them with everything that they need help with. If they need some seeds, or they need some new equipment or materials, or they need more light or anything, we help them with that for sure. If that is what they want, we can be there for them the entire way. And doing all of this, we also got some inquiries about doing installations for us, because they saw that we have a very nice functional vertical farm, and they also wanted to have a vertical setup in one way or another, and were unsure about how they would do that the best. So we went in and helped them. And we've been doing installations through much of Europe. We've been doing it in Spain and in Germany and in England as well. We did in England the largest indoor strawberry cultivation setup. It was about 3,300 square meters, 12 layers in London. A really big system. So that was really nice to being a part of that and building it up from the bottom. And they've been really glad for our help as well. Besides that, another opportunity or possibility here in the vertical farming space is special made systems for customers. And we do that as well. We have both mushroom and microgreen setups that are vertical, that our customers buy from us, and they display them in their restaurant or their canteen. It could be, for example, with the microgreens, a rolling CC card, a rolling tray unit with the integrated light in it and watering and irrigation. And then we deliver the microgreens on a subscription, and the microgreens grow at the customer. And when it's ready to harvest, they cut it themselves and place it for their eating guests. And we've done that with both the mushrooms and the microgreens. It's something that really grabs the attention, and it's a hyper-local addition to the restaurant's portfolio of produce. And it's something that really has been an attention grabber, and it's made sure that we got in some great restaurants, got them as customers, and are delivering on them on a subscription every week, which is really nice. And it's also gave us the possibility of being noticed by some very, very popular chefs here in Denmark. Some of the chefs are so popular that they have their own TV shows, and they are using our product in the TV shows. So that is really nice. When we are done with the presentation, I will just go out to my production really quick, and I will grab some different products, and then I will show you some of the products. But moving on in the presentation here, I will now talk about some of the possibilities and opportunities in the vertical farming sector. So we all know that we have a growing world population, and the climate is changing, and it's becoming in some areas harder and harder to grow crops. Indoor, when you're growing crops, you have the optimal conditions year-round. This reduces growth time because it's so efficient. Because every day we are imitating the sun perfectly with LED lights. The water is delivered to the plants perfectly to the roots every time as well. There is no days where it's raining too much, or there's no days where it's not raining at all. So sun and water is perfectly provided to the plants, as well as temperature, humidity, and CO2 through a HVAC unit, a heating, ventilation, and air conditioning unit, which also has a CO2 addition, because the plants, they uptake the CO2 and they provide out the oxygen in their photosynthesis. And also in a clean, in an indoor setup, you would have clean zones, meaning that this is where something that you go through before coming into the vertical farm. And these clean zones are great at eliminating pests or diseases, bacteria or fungi or whatever it could be that could be a problem in a plant growing setup. So with these plant zones, we can eliminate the need for pesticides in the productions, which gives an overall much more healthy and organic product that the customers are definitely craving. And this also enables us to give the nutrients at the right growth stage, at the right time, in the right amount. So it's much more precise as well. Some of the normal crops that are most popularly being grown in vertical setups are salads, different kinds of lettuce, leafy greens, lettuce heads, different kinds of lettuce, yeah, for sure, a lot of lettuce. And herbs are also very popular in vertical setups as well as microgreens. And there are some popular mushrooms sorts that are also very popular in vertical setups. Alternative crops could be medicinal plants because medicinal companies are often looking for stable suppliers. So if they're normal farmer that they buy a medicinal plant from is saying, well, the harvest was not that great this year, I can only deliver 30-40% of what I'm usually delivering. So now the medicinal company has a huge gap in what they need in their production line. And they will for sure be looking into vertical farming as produce security provider, because they know that if we have the same conditions all year round, why should we not have the same results? And other than that, alternative crops could be berries. As I mentioned before, berries are gaining a lot of popularity, especially in Asia as well. Edible flowers is also something that for sure the high-end restaurants and kitchens also love using. They have a lot of issues getting it in the winter and the autumn, and also in some of the spring. So they are also, and you can charge a lot for these edible flowers. I can tell you that it's a very lucrative thing to get in on if you know who and where to sell it. Okay, I will talk about some of the geographical possibilities in vertical farming now. Overall, you could say that population-dense areas or these big cities are areas that really make sense for vertical farming, especially in the future. Areas where growing is not optimal, or transportation is also a big factor when you are dealing with food coming into these big cities. So having the produce growing within the city, it would really put down the food miles and the distance of the farm to table, which is also a more sustainable way of transporting the food. Suited areas for vertical farming could be hot or dry areas with a lot of people, or cold areas with long winters. As long as there are people in the areas, this would be a good possibility. Remote places, islands are also a big... it's because on islands, they have a really big need for imports. So if you have a fairly good-sized island with a lot of people and there is not a vertical farm on it, that could definitely be a possibility for someone to jump on that. Asia as a possibility has also showing a good track record. They had some early adaptation in Asia. They have a very high need for fresh produce because there are a lot of people throughout entire Asia. Very dense population, and some of the areas with very dense population have very small farming capacity. So that's why they have, for example, Singapore has jumped really big on vertical farming. And if we look at the one that I am particularly interested in, it's the Middle East as a vertical farming opportunity. It's a very young market. It's very fragmented. It means that it's competitive. It's without any dominant players. Of course, there are some rather big players in the Middle East, but it's still very early, and there's not anyone that has like jumped on it for sure yet. You have seen Emirates providing actually the world's biggest indoor vertical farm for their planes, which also makes very good sense that they want to keep the value chain within themselves, and they also cut down on food miles in the same way. So they have a very challenging climate in some parts of the Middle East, and they want to rely less on imports, and in that way gain some food security with their own stable production. I was looking a bit at something called Modern Intelligence, which is an agency where they project growth, and the growth projections for the vertical farming scene in the Middle East would be around 14% per year until 2028. So there's a lot of potential for going into the Middle East. Other possibilities regarding vertical farming could be vertical GMO crops. And this is crops or plants that are specifically engineered for vertical production. Looking at what would be a good plan for a vertical production, you're looking at shape and size and yield. If we have a lot of layers stacked on top of each other, we can't really grow so tall plants, but we could more grow a wide plant. So having a wide plant with a big yield would be very, what can I say, lucrative for a vertical farming producer. I will briefly talk on how we will also use AI in the vertical farming setups in the future, because there also lies a huge possibility for vertical farming producers to gain, what can you say, a competitive edge in the fields. And AI will play a crucial role in vertical farming because it will enable precise and efficient management of the growing environment with sensors and cameras looking at the plants, collecting data, seeing that, okay, this plant needs some nutrients now, this plant is ready for harvest now, this plant is looking like there could be infected by some pest, we need to isolate that. And all of this will result in higher yields and better crop quality and less resource wastage, because the AI will also learn that how can we most efficiently grow these plants without using as little energy as possible. And this will make vertical farming a more viable and sustainable way of producing food in the future, and make vertical farming in general more competitive compared to other types of farming. Okay, so this was more or less what I had for my presentation here. I will briefly talk about what it requires to become a successful entrepreneur, so that you just get some pointers for if you want to go out and start on your own vertical farming journey. And I would start by saying that there is no formula for success as an entrepreneur. It is something that is defined within you, and success can be measured in many different ways, depending on your own goals and values. There are nevertheless some classic signs of what typical successful entrepreneurs are doing and how they live their life. And I would say that determination and resilience are a very key indicator of successful entrepreneurs. They are highly focused and determined people. They have a clear vision for their business and how they want to run it. And they work relentlessly towards those goals and producing as much as possible in that way. And this even comes when they are being challenged, or you could experience problems in many other aspects of your life. A successful entrepreneur will still make sure that his business is running properly. And this was what I was coming back to about the strong work ethic. And it often requires successful entrepreneurs that they are willing to invest the necessary time and energy to start a company, which is a lot of work, especially in the beginning. And successful entrepreneurs are also able to attract talent within their business. You need to have a very good team in your business. You can't rely on that you can do everything on yourself. And if you need to get someone in, you often have to train them as well. And that is a very important aspect, that people are being trained well enough as well. And of course, entrepreneurs have some financial basic understanding. Of course, this is regards finances, administration. Even if you need funding in running your business, successful entrepreneurs are skilled at managing this finances and ensuring that it is financially viable. Okay, and successful entrepreneurs should also be very able to adapt to the entrepreneurial world, and especially in the vertical farming scene, where there are a lot of things happening at once, and you shouldn't be afraid to change course if you see that this is not necessarily where we can do the best what can you say, sales or produce the best things that is needed in the market right now. we were, for example, not counting on that we were going to grow mushrooms in the way and the scale that we are at the moment. But it's been a very interesting journey to follow, for sure. And as I talked about learning people new skills, you should have some leadership skills as well, because you're going to be the one having the responsibility for a lot of people. If you're going to be a successful entrepreneur, you're going to have some employees that are going to look at you and look up to you. So you should possess some strong skills that can inspire them and guide them to their own journey. And it's important to remember that success as an entrepreneur can vary significantly from one person to another and from business to business. I think what is important is that you define your own goals and values and work towards them with dedication and determination. Thank you. This was all that was in my presentation.